Hi, and welcome. Let's take a minute to talk about writing a recommendation for a student and why I actually require students to write me a thank you note. So, first thing I want to talk about is why. First of all, writing a thank you note when someone does something for you, gives you a gift, writes a recommendation, invites you to an interview. It's just the right thing to do. Second of all, students aren't all taught this at home. And I realized that when I was growing up, my parents had me write thank you notes for absolutely everything all the time. But not all students have that benefit of parents who know what the protocol is and who know that it's respectful. So it's not, I don't think, outside of the realm of what teachers should be doing to teach some life skill things like that to students. Like, hey, you need to write a thank you note, and I'm going to require it so that, point number 3, it creates a habit. When students create habits in high school, which is where I'm writing recommendations, then they get in that habit so that after high school, when they're in college or in the working world, it's just natural for them to write thank you notes for things that people do for them or gifts that they receive or interviews that they have. So how do I do this? First of all, in my room, I have up on the wall a little folder with sheets in it that say, "So you want a recommendation?" And whenever a student asks me to write one, I point them over there and I say, "Okay, there's what you need to do. Let me know when you're on the step where you need me." So on that handout, the first thing that I put on it is I tell them what I need from them. So some of it is just like, what name do you want me to refer to you by? What's your GPA? What's your class rank? What are some of your outside of school activities? Things like that, just stuff to give me information. Then I write what the steps are. So the first step is filling out that sheet, giving me the information I need. The second step is me actually writing a recommendation. The third step is I give them the recommendation. And the fourth step is the thank you note. And the fifth step is actually submitting the recommendation. So I finish that handout by saying why. I let students know I'm really big on explaining to students why I do things, what's behind it, and what my goal is. So in that handout for a recommendation, I say to them, listen, these are all of the things you should write thank you notes for. And I give them a nice long list. Some of it is things that they might actually encounter as a young student. Some of it is things that they won't encounter until they're an adult. So I want them to know, like, hey, thank you notes are a thing and they're important and people appreciate it. And I also tell them it is unbelievable the amount of times I see on places like LinkedIn where people comment about, wow, we had really great applicants, but the one we chose was the one who gave us a thank you note. It means something to people. And I want my students to have a leg up on the competition. So after they give me that handout, I write them a recommendation and then I give it back to them. I want the student to review what I wrote because it's not uncommon for a student to be like, oh, you know what, Madame, you said that I had you for level 1, but remember I had level 1 at the middle school, so I had such and such teacher, and then I'll fix that. Or they will say, you wrote this one to the University of Michigan, and actually the one I need from you is for the University of Wisconsin. Okay, great. I can change that. And I also want them to see what I'm saying. I want to be upfront and honest and let them know, like, hey, this is what I think of you and what you can do and what I want the college to know about you. I think that's pretty special for students. And then they can keep that in a file. And I think a lot of them do. And after I give them the recommendation to review and they give it back, then I say, okay, I can make these changes if there were any. And then I wait for a thank you note. Once I get a thank you note that day, I will submit the recommendation, the final draft, to wherever they told me to send it. And are there some students who write it on nice stationery and maybe include a gift card? Sure, some do. Not all, and really not many do a gift card, but some do. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there are some students who write a heartfelt thank you on a piece of notebook paper, and I'm okay with that. I'm trying to get them in that habit of doing the work. So I think when they transition to being an adult, that's more when they're going to have actual stationery that they buy in, like a card. So check out the description below for a link to my student recommendation handout in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. It's fully editable, so you can go in and change things for whatever you need, and it will give you a good starting point if this is something that you would like to do with your students. Good luck.